Now on your Tuesday morning drive. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy are back in the Sunshine State this week as they both take aim at the Snake Pit for the first time in their PGA Tour careers. But whose game is in the best shape as they head to the Copperhead course? Our experts state their case.
Michelle Wie has her 5th career victory.
Michelle Wie returned to the winner's circle over the weekend, 1,351 days since her last victory at the 2014 US Women's Open. And she joins us live on the show today. And we're also live all morning long from the Archie Griffin Celebrity Golf Classic. Hear from the tournament host and the only 2-time Heisman winner in history, plus a handful of other Buckeyes in town to support a great cause. It's all ahead on Morning Drive this Tuesday, March 6, 2018. And a very good Tuesday morning to you. Cara Banks alongside two men who we're very pleased to have in Studio AP. Look who we've woken up early. Nota Begay and Mark Rolfing. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cara.
Pretty excited that we're going to get to catch up with Michelle Wie after she rejoined the winner's circle on Sunday. You must have got to know her pretty well in your time in Hawaii, Mark.
Well, I have. I first met her, Cara, when she was 9 years old. And I sort of gauged Michelle Wie by her winter trips to Hawaii. Still, she comes for an extended period every year in December and January. And I felt after she left a month and a half or so ago, like this could be a really big year for Michelle Wie. She seemed very happy, very comfortable in where she is kind of in her life in general. More importantly, with the game itself, though, I saw a naturalness kind of coming back to her game and not so mechanical approach. So I felt like it was going to be a big year. Yesterday was obviously a good start.
Yeah, that was exactly what Paige McKenzie said, actually, when we were analysing her win on Sunday morning. A natural fluidity back and the technicalities had gone. We've got plenty more coming up with Michelle, but let's get to what is happening now. Both Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy making their tournament debuts at the Valspar Championship this week. Now, by comparison, Tiger has 16 career PGA Tour wins in the state of Florida, whilst Rory McIlroy has just one. That came at the Honda Classic in 2012. So let's take a look at how their stats stack up so far this season. But do note that these are unofficial ranks as neither player has met the minimum round requirement yet this year. But Rory leads Tiger in the long game, though still well out of the top 100 in driving accuracy and greens in regulation. Tiger does have the upper hand, though, when it comes to the short game, notably his proximity to the hole and putting average, which leads me to ask our esteemed analyst with us this morning, whose game is in better shape heading to Innisbrook this week. Mark, can you state the case for Rory McIlroy?
I can. Everything is relative, though, Cara, and you have to remember that Rory 6 months ago was kind of up here and Tiger was down here. And if you look at the trend, Rory's coming this way and Tiger's coming this way. Your question, I think, is have they met yet? And has Tiger passed Rory? And I don't think he quite has. And I think Innisbrook actually is going to be a venue that probably favors Rory more than Tiger. And the reason I think so is because these greens are pretty simple. They are simple green complexes. And where Rory tends to get in trouble is when he has complex green complexes. That's sort of a double whatever. But I think Tiger is putting so well, he would putt well no matter where he was playing this week. Rory, on the other hand, is not putting well, and I think these simple greens will be to his advantage.
Does Rory's level of play concern you right now?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, missing cuts, shooting high scores, it concerns me. He is not trending well.
All right, Noda, how's Tiger's game shaping up for this week?
Well, first, let's not get too worried about Rory. It's early. It's early in the year. But I think Tiger is trending a little bit more favorably than Rory. I think a couple reasons. The golf course suits him. Number one, he's not going to have to rely on the driver too much. He's going to be able to work on he's developed a 2-iron. It's kind of a driving iron, so to speak, that he's been working on the last couple months that I think he's really trying to sort of get an understanding of where it's at. It'll be curious to see whether he has that driving iron or his 5-wood. He kind of flip-flops back and forth. That's going to allow him to get the ball into the fairway on a regular basis along with his 3-wood. There's only a handful of holes that he's going to need to hit his driver on. So I think you're going to see him with a lot more irons from the fairway, which then is going to feed into this proximity to hole. Had wonderful proximity to hole at the Honda Classic. And so I think That tells us that his iron play, he's feeling better with his mechanics, still working on some issues with regard to his parameters on his body. How's his body working? How much range does he have? How much can he recover? How much can he practice after rounds? So we're still going through the preliminary stages of Tiger sort of coming to terms with what his feelings are as far as his body, his game, and his mind. Now let's not forget that players do have to get in condition to thinking through rounds. It's like going out there and taking a 5-hour exam every day, and your mind has to get a little bit of endurance. And so I think that's one of the most favorable things this week with Tiger going to the Copperhead course, and I think that's why it's going to favor him just a little bit more than it does Rory.
It is a narrow layout, and it is going to be a good test for him, particularly off the tee. We'll have to wait and see. Rory McIlroy currently the world number 12. Tiger Woods, the world number 388. Those aren't fair statistics, though, because we do know, of course, that Tiger hasn't been playing much in recent years. We'll get more onto this a little bit later, but now let's say good morning to Lauren Thompson, who is with The Insider.
Good morning, Cara. Yes, the first of many Rosie's notes today. Tim Roseford, our Golf Channel insider, with us. Good morning, Rosie. How are you doing?
Good morning.
So here we are. We've got Tiger Woods ready to make his 4th official start of 2018, but his first at Innisbrook since 1996. Now, that was the JCPenney Classic. He was 20 years old at the time. He was teeing it up in a team event with Kelly Keeney, who was one of the top amateurs in the world. So take me back and give me some perspective on who these two people were at this time.
Well, it was December '96. Tiger had come out so hot as a pro. He had locked down his card. He had won twice. He played in the Tour Championship that year, wielded a lot of power. Kelly was almost like a sister to him. He and the Keeneys traveled a lot, playing AJGA, USGA events. Remember, Tiger beat Tripp in the U.S. Amateur at TPC Sawgrass. So they had a lot of history. As Keeney told me, we were both kids. And I say, yeah, kids with a lot of money. You know, Tiger had knocked down his Nike contract. So did she. Technically, she shouldn't have been in the field because she wasn't a member of the LPGA Tour. Tiger, as I said, wielded a lot of power. There was a petition sent from the tournament director to the LPGA. Jim Ritz let her play. They ended up finishing in second place.
And she finished wearing men's clothes,
Right, exactly.
technically. I mean, it looked like everything was just floating on her, but there was a reason for that.
Well, I talked to her yesterday, and I got a biggest kick out of that, talking about some of those pictures that are popping up on social media. Basically, Nike had signed her, but didn't have a ladies' line of clothes at that point in time. Ooh. So that was as she said, that was a men's extra small. You see how it draped over it, and I love the pleated pants. I mean, this is classic Noda, I'm sure, and Ralph had those back in the day. I never went to the pleats, but you know, you gotta know your style sense, and Kelly got a big kick out of that, and some of the grief she's been taking over the course of time with this revival of this memory of these two playing together. And one final little nugget: Tiger almost missed his pro-am round. Fluff was a caddy, then a lot of different characters overslept it, and Fluff had to wake him out. Went out to the first tee, rolled out, and hit this beautiful buttercut out there about 280. So. Some things don't change, I guess.
No kidding. Only Tiger Woods. Now Tiger Woods getting back into competition as the season progresses with maybe a little bit more fire in his belly because of one of his longtime rivals, Phil Mickelson, making his way back into the winner's circle with that victory in Mexico. But that playoff between Justin Thomas and Phil Mickelson, that was good TV. We loved watching that. And there's a backstory between those two.
Yeah, I tracked it down. It was hysterical and funny and appropriate considering the timing of it all. At last year's Open Championship, Phil was just playing a little joke on JT. Went up to him and said, hey, you know, I've been watching you. You got a lot of talent. I really think you're a great young player. You know, there are a couple things that I see, though, that would make you a better player. And, of course, with that, the hook was right in JT's mouth. He said, well, could you tell me what it is? And Phil said, no, I'm not going to tell you because I have to compete against you right now. This is something that, you know, part of Phil's personality, part of Tiger's personality.
Phil humor. Yep.
Classic Phil. And JT took it all the right way. He texted me back yesterday and with a ha-ha saying, I wish he had told me what it was. And considering this scene that we're seeing, the telling of that story is certainly appropriate. Good friends. They were in the team room last year at the President's Cup. They will be in the team room this year at the Ryder Cup. But when it comes down to individual stroke play or match play, maybe in Austin, Texas, different game, and a lot of teasing and a lot of needling going on.
And Cara, as we turn it back to you, Phil's got a lot of jokes. He's a nice guy. He always has a smile on his face, but no doubt about it, he's going to beat you on Sunday if you're in the competition.
Well, he did this Sunday. We'll get on to Phil again a little bit more in a moment, but let's turn our attention to what else is happening. Yesterday, the RNA and USGA released the 2017 distance report that proclaims the pros are hitting it further on 6 of 7 world tours. Now, the annual report examines driving distance data based on nearly 300,000 drives per year, and here are the findings. When you compare 2016 to 2017, and it is worth noting, there are several variables each year on each tour that can skew these numbers in either direction. So comparing the 2 years isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison, which could help explain why the Web.com tour is up so much and why the LPGA distance actually went down. Well, here's what was stated in the RNA and USGA 2017 distance report. It read, quote, "The 2015 and 2016 editions of the distance report presented the increases in driving distance since 2003 as a slow creep of around 0.2 yards per year. The 2017 data shows a deviation from this trend. The average distance gain across the 7 worldwide tours was more than 3 yards since 2016. As noted in previous annual reports, variability in driving distance of 4 or more yards from season to season on any one tour is not uncommon. However, this level of increase across so many tours in a single season is unusual and concerning and requires closer inspection and monitoring to fully understand the causes and effects. We remain open-minded, and our absolute priority is to ensure that all key stakeholders are involved in an open and inclusive process and that we move forward together in the best interests of golf at all levels. There is no fixed timetable, but we will commence this process immediately and endeavour to reach a conclusion as promptly as possible." End quote. Well, it is important to point out, guys, that there are no new rules in place. This is simply a report and a promise for future discussions from the USGA and RNA. So I ask you, Nota, are you surprised or concerned at all by those numbers that came out yesterday?
Certainly not surprised. I mean, the athletes and a combination of factors are improving, and definitely not concerned. I think there needs to be a little bit more of a statistical evaluation on what are the contributing factors to scoring, Mark, and how are the technological aspects, the setup, the players factoring into the overall average score or the winning scores. And I don't think it's a cause for concern at this point.
You know, the thing that concerns me, Cara, is not necessarily what the numbers say about the individual tours. I'm not concerned about the LPGA appearing to lose distance. I'm concerned that the sample size is so small. Is there something skewed there? 300,000 sounds like a lot of drives, but you break that down by tour, it's actually not that many. And what are the factors really that are leading to this?
Okay, well, let's look at the responses from some of those key stakeholders. Firstly, in a letter to PGA Tour members, Commissioner Jay Monahan wrote in part, quote, "Having carefully reviewed the data, we do not believe the trends indicate a significant or abnormal increase in distance since 2003 or from 2016 to 2017. Rest assured, we will continue to collaborate and share data with the USGA and the RNA, along with other industry stakeholders in monitoring these trends as we have since 2003. Then Pete Bavacqua, CEO of the PGA of America, also responded, and he said in part, quote, "Based on the information we have seen, we are highly skeptical that rolling back the golf ball in whole or in part will be in the best interest of the sport and our collective efforts to grow the game. Our nearly 29,000 PGA professionals would be at the forefront of implementing this potential rollback, so we will be polling them this week to fully understand their perspective, especially on what it would mean for the vast majority of the golfers they serve. We look forward to offering our candid feedback to the USGA and RNA once we have collected that data and reviewed the full report." So remarkably, there we have two leaders in the game saying they do not believe any action needs to be taken. What outcome do you expect to see from the poll of PGA professionals when that happens, Mark?
Well, there 29,000 PGA professionals are the ones that are closest to the recreational golfers. And if you take a look at the governing bodies, first of all, I don't want to see a situation when they really need to be working together that's going to cause conflict for them. All these organizations need to get together to grow the game. But it's the 29,000 PGA professionals that are going to be talking to the recreational golfers who, at this point, don't appear to really have a seat at the table in terms of weighing in. Where they are going to weigh in is with the 29,000 PGA professionals. So I think that is going to be a monumental segment to pay attention to here in this discussion.
Well, and I mean, I'm going to simplify this to a certain degree. I've played in hundreds of pro-ams in my career. I've never walked off the course with my amateurs saying, man, I hit the ball way too far today. It was kind of a, it was a sort of a miserable experience. I was too close to the hole and didn't really have enough opportunities. That's certainly not the case. And I think that the governing bodies need not to act hasty in this particular incident like they have in the past. And there needs to be sort of a collective understanding of what is good for the progress and the growth of this game. This game has had some very, very big difficulties in attracting new and younger people into our game, and it's about bigger, better, faster, and maybe that is the option for the younger player. I mean, in terms of getting them into the game and getting them interested in keeping them in the game versus what the pros are doing. And so I think we just needs to be a more thorough evaluation, a bigger sample size needs to be taken on sort of what are these contributing factors. And if distance is so important at the highest level, why are the longest hitters not winning every week? That's not the case. So I don't think you can simply highlight the distance that the players are hitting it at the highest level as the biggest contributing factor to scoring.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a concern, as you say, in the amateur game, perhaps in the professional game, but the amateurs like to use the same equipment that the professionals do. So maybe bifurcation is the compromise. We'll get onto that in another moment. Mark, does the golf ball going further reduce the skill level needed to play this game?
Well, maybe in some situations, but in others, I don't think it does. The most important thing is the golf ball going further is only one element that I think has reduced the skill of the game. The things that cause a ball to go farther are so much more varied than just the golf ball itself. Launch monitors, the conditioning of the athletes, the maintenance of the courses that they're playing. There are a lot of factors. I'm also concerned as to how these numbers might be skewed. And it may seem small, but just moving a WGC, let's say from Doral to Mexico at 8,600 feet or 7,800 feet, I guess it is, how would that skew the numbers? Obviously, the drives are going to go farther in Mexico than they did at Doral. So again, for me, it's just too small a sample compared to the millions and millions of drives that are hit every year by a lot of golfers all over the world.
Yeah, it seems as though we'd want to see this trend happen consecutively for several years rather than maybe making a decision of data collected from 1 year. But no decision has been made as of yet. And actually late yesterday, a statement was released from David Mayer, CEO and president of Acushnet Company, who produced Titleist golf balls. Now it reads, quote, "In any given year, there are variables that impact distance, and any movement, as in 2017, is not suddenly indicative of a harmful trend. We continue to believe equipment innovation has benefited golfers at all levels, and our analysis of the 2017 distance report affirms that the USGA and the R&A have effective regulations in place to ensure the game's health and sustainability. We look forward to continued dialogue with the governing bodies and stakeholders as we seek to position the great game of golf for future success." End quote. Well, we will continue the debate on Morning Drive today, but to find out what else we have ahead, let's rejoin Lauren Thompson.
You got it, Cara. And coming up today on Morning Drive, we're going to get to another issue, and this is a different one. Why avid AMs are oftentimes scared of getting a club fitting. Is this possibly you? So our equipment expert, Matt Adams, is going to tackle why this is a hidden fear by showing you the process and how you can get the full fitting van experience, just like the Tour Pros, where the numbers will spell out exactly what kind of gear you need. Now, someone else who knew what they needed for years, another win, and made it happen in Singapore last weekend was Michelle Wie, the 2018 HSBC Women's World Champion. It had been since 2014 that she'd walked into the winner's circle, and today she is joining us live to tell all of us why that victory was different. And with Wie and even Phil Mickelson, some veterans on tour, getting back into their winning ways, is it Tiger's turn now? Well, he and the rest of the field at the Valspar Championship will have to get through the snake pit relatively unscathed, as much as they can possibly do that. So today, we're going to begin our dissection of this brutal three-hole stretch, starting with that par 4 16th. And Cara, it's got a bite to it. When those fangs sink in, it is tough to get out of there.
Yeah, you like the snake pit?
Nah, not really.
Is that the holes or the name?
It just doesn't have the same personality as a bear trap. And the Copperhead course is so good, why do you need a snake pit?
Oh, stay tuned.